Y'all know that evil Superman guy? No, not that one. Not that one either. No, the other one. That's the guy. Let's reimagine him the Spec Evo way. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Speculative Wildlife Research Center. Today we're taking a look at Viltrumites from Invincible. With the third season having just ended, it would be as good a time as any to take a look at these evil Superman analogs in the more alien redesign style we've used before. I, of course, must ask you to consider liking and subscribing if you like this video. And now, without further ado, let's get started. Alright, first things first. Viltrum is an Earth-like planet, but much larger, and this fact would give it a much greater gravity. As we saw in our Superman episode, this would lead to the organisms living in it to develop a stronger body similar to those of larger organisms from our own planet, columnar limbs and high muscle density to allow them to move and live in these conditions. However, going into a bit of creature/character design, I wanted to give this a stockier and edgier appearance to contrast them with our Kryptonians, to reflect their much more aggressive nature, future character development notwithstanding. And, like with Kryptonians, I wanted to add a superficially human-like facade that was the result of coincidence rather than them having all of their parts in the same place. Of particular note is the presence of its respiratory gills, logically the one place of their hard exterior that would need to be vulnerable to allow respiration. Its placement is a reference to one of their main weaknesses, that being their sensitive ears and hearing. Now let's talk biology. Viltrumites have a ton of interesting properties. They can freely fly to other planets and live there, indicating a good degree of adaptation. They can quickly regenerate, have comparatively softer insides, and a lot of other things, which I believe can be tied to the smart atoms they are supposed to have, which is their capacity to manipulate their own atoms. Or, in this case, we're adapting them to smart cells. My proposal here is that Viltrumites have two main layers to their bodies, so to speak. Their external layer is much like ours, composed of specialized tissues with different functions, including skin, muscle and bone analogs. Their inner layer, however, is composed of an undifferentiated cell medium, stem cells that act as a constant reserve for the needs of the Viltrumites. Upon having their external tissues damaged, these cells would be quickly mobilized to patch and replace the damaged tissues, quickly differentiating into their desired role, in a mechanism very similar to that of an anomalous organism found in our planet and currently held by the Secure Containment Procedures Foundation. These smart cells would also work in order to adapt to new environments, such as those found in other planets, allowing the Viltrumites to change their physiology to adapt to new environmental conditions, keeping their physical abilities and senses in their prime without altering their external anatomy, and the constant cellular replacement would allow them greater lifespans without reducing their strength. Of course, the undifferentiated cells would have scarce defenses compared to hardened external cells, making internal attacks much more likely to harm a Viltrumite. Viltrumites also seem to think being angrier does not make you stronger, and many fans have taken this to mean they have no concept of adrenaline. From what I've read, that's a bit of a contentious take, but I believe it makes perfect sense for our Spec Evo version. After all, if they have an inner fluid medium, there would be no defined pathways for chemical signals and hormones to travel through. Rather, I propose these signals are given through an internal bioelectric system based on constant, cyclical oxidation and deoxidation of organic matter. And this system is what sends these signals towards appropriate cells, being contained to the inside of their body by the external layer to avoid energy waste. This bioelectric system also provides the energy necessary for the differentiation and quick transformation of the smart cells, and even allows them to move towards the location they are needed, with each of these cells propelling itself towards their destination. This quickly adapted to a system that allows the Viltrumites to control the momentum of their cells, allowing them to move at great speeds, moving parts of them much faster to increase the strength of their punches, and even move through the air without external aid. And furthermore, this constant internal energy production prevents them from being tired during physical activity, and allows them to resist the absence of external sources of energy, such as food and the gases they breathe. For a while, of course, since no biological system could function in isolation indefinitely. Let's keep this idea rolling to talk about another very important aspect of Viltrumites: reproduction. Viltrumites can mate and reproduce with a lot of different species, including space bugs, and their children always develop into full Viltrumites. So mayhaps their smart cells are capable of absorbing and copying information from other organisms using a similar mechanism to that which allows them to adapt. Of course, the gametes would be adaptable smart cells, and so would develop without influence from the other parent's genetics, simply adapting to the alternate genetics to allow the newborn a better chance at survival before eventually turning it into a fully fledged Viltrumite. Logically, the closer the biology of the two parents, the faster the new individual will turn into a Viltrumite. As male members of the species reach maturity, they will develop a facial ornament that produces pheromones to attract females, aka the omnipresent mustache of Viltrumites. Their ability to adapt could even allow them to produce pheromones that attract other species as well. Given these reproductive habits, it is likely Viltrumites evolved as a klepton species, being able to reproduce through the input of a closely related species, which allowed them to more easily adapt to other conditions on Viltrum. Their adaptable smart cells, however, allowed them to vastly increase the reach of their reproductive capabilities as they evolved, until they were capable of reproducing with almost anything in their planet as long as it had a similar biochemistry. This, however, led to a quick overpopulation once their civilization had formed, and, of course, an accordingly fierce fight for resources and space, which saw the rise of a fascistic, highly militarized group that quickly eliminated a huge part of the population they deemed weak. And while many survived, both their numbers and genetic pool suffered immensely as a result. Afterwards, this once thriving civilization began an expansion into the reaches of space in order to, according to its leadership, allow them to fix this new state of things by increasing their reach and numbers anew, being meant to mate only with species close to them to preserve their so-called purity. Modern Viltrumite society focuses on strength and combat ability as the measure of the value of its members, with ranking and sexual selection being based on these aspects, and the psychological and emotional detachment resulting from their long lifespan and culture makes them completely unempathetic to other sapient species. We at the SWRC suggest careful monitoring of the skies, lest one of these organisms makes its way to our planet. That is, if they are not already here. And that's it for Speculative Biology look into Viltrumites. I will say at first I was wondering what road I could take to make these fellas different from Superman. because I've never watched the show or read the comics. Sue me. But as I went into the lore, I found the differences to be much more overt than I had thought. Given the Viltrumites are galactic conquerors, compared to Superman's mostly one-off superpower thing, they needed the kind of adaptations that would allow them to travel and survive in new environments, as well as having their powers be intrinsic to their biology as opposed to resulting from a different planet's conditions. Luckily, the canonical presence of smart atoms turned out to help explain a lot of these factors once we developed the idea of a fluid and heavily adaptable internal medium. Once that was done, all that remained was the external anatomical details, and the main theme here was making sure the Viltrumites looked appropriately big and strong, as well as properly mustachioed. I especially wanted to give it a combination of big hands capable of doing all the punching, with sharp edges because of all the blood that regularly appears on the show, but also giving them smaller, more delicate manipulator digits, as well as a topmost anatomy that vaguely resembled a human head, but with the sensory organs sneakily moved around. So I really hope you enjoyed this episode. And as always, here's a thank you to everyone who wanted to see it. And with this one, there was a lot of help and input from our researchers and research associates over on our exclusive Patreon Discord. If you'd like to give input on episodes being made and even see them ahead of time, please consider joining in as well. Or you can also like, subscribe, or write a comment telling me any type of creature you would like me to give the Spec Evo treatment in the show. Any of those really help the channel a lot. Thank you all for watching, and see you next time on the Speculative Wildlife Research Center. No, not that one. No. Okay, one more time. Ugh.